The practice of yoga is growing in popularity, but it's still rare to see yoga classes inside a hospital program or in office-based clinics. There are obvious mental and physical benefits to combining physical exercise and breathing with meditation, as happens in yoga. Recent scientific studies have documented benefits of yoga practice on important heart functions, and a wider use of yoga in the therapy of heart patients should follow. For example, yoga can reduce the frequency of an abnormal heart rhythm called atrial fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation is the most common cardiac rhythm disturbance and leads to so many visits to hospitals and offices, costing millions, if not billions, of healthcare dollars in the United States. It's an unpredictable disorder of the heart rhythm. It can interfere with your work, your vacations, and your family gatherings when it gets out of control. Recently, patients with intermittent atrial fibrillation were studied for 3 months as a baseline, and then they were followed for 3 months while they began to practice yoga, only twice a week for 60 minutes. These were people who had never done it before. During the 3 months of their yoga practice, the number of episodes of this heart rhythm called atrial fibrillation went down, and patients said that their quality of life was better because they weren't having this uncomfortable sensation. There were also decreases in blood pressure and resting heart rate in these patients who began their yoga practice. Patients even up to the age of 80 were included in the study. Another example why yoga is good for your heart is that yoga is good for people with high blood pressure. You've probably heard of high blood pressure or hypertension because it affects millions of people worldwide. Unfortunately, high blood pressure can result in heart disease, strokes, and even kidney failure. The usual therapy of high blood pressure is medication from the pharmacy and telling patients to change their diet and reduce their salt. Do you know that recently 50 patients with high blood pressure were asked to practice yoga 15 days in a row for 2 hours each session? Pretty intense exposure to yoga. Researchers measured heart function before and after this training. After practicing yoga for just 2 weeks, the resting heart rate, the resting blood pressure, what's called the systolic top number, and the diastolic bottom number were significantly reduced. A comparison group that did nothing during those 2 weeks didn't see any beneficial trends at all. The third thing you should know about is that yoga can reduce stress in your life. There's a silent nervous system in our body called the autonomic nervous system that is always controlling our heart rate and our blood pressure. A healthy person has a heart rate that can swing up and down during every breath, but a diseased heart will show very little change in the heart rate with a deep breath in and a deep breath out. That's something that can be measured in research studies. It's called heart rate variability, and it's influenced by this autonomic nervous system. The parasympathetic system helps your heart rate swing, and the sympathetic nervous system tries to resist it. So scientists came along and they compared this heart rate variability in people who were practicing yoga for a long time. And they grabbed a bunch of people who had never practiced yoga. They measured heart rate variability in these two groups. The heart rate variability was increased in yoga practitioners, and they showed signs of much less stress and much more relaxation of this silent autonomic nervous system. Their cardiac response day to day was much lower in stress and was improved with a regular yoga practice. Yoga should be considered by patients and practitioners as another tool in the toolbox of controlling stress, of controlling high blood pressure, and of controlling heart rhythm disorders. Many cardiac patients are elderly, and modifications in a yoga practice can be made, such as sitting in a chair during yoga, or mainly just breathing, which is the core essence of yoga. But these are still beneficial, and I hope you'll take up this practice. Namaste.